Hello, Quinnipiac hockey fans, and welcome to the Neutral Zone, Q30 Sports' exclusive show for Quinnipiac men's and women's ice hockey. I'm Andrew Badillo, and I'm joined along today by Quinnipiac women's ice hockey beat reporter Phil Akery. Phil, how you doing?
Doing great, Andrew. Glad to be here with you.
Great, Phil. You were at the UConn game this weekend. The women's ice hockey team went away this weekend, played UConn and UNH, and it was a very successful weekend for the teams. For the team. What did you take away from both their games?
Well, Andrew, I think the biggest thing that I saw was they're playing physical, aggressive hockey right now. Against UConn, UConn had a fantastic defense for the majority of the game, despite them losing 3-0. You see every major player for Quinnipiac is really stepping up, and things were getting chippy. I mean, Quinnipiac didn't score till the end of the first period with just 30 seconds left. But I think another thing, just a negative from that, is that Quinnipiac needs to get their offense going quicker because, honestly, if they didn't have Sydney Rossman doing what she's doing right now behind the goal, other teams would be getting more chances quicker against Quinnipiac, and they probably wouldn't be 4-0 right now. They'd probably be either 3-1 or they could be 2-2, which would not be good for the rankings. But I think another thing you're seeing is that you're seeing offense from the usual suspects. You know, we already have goals from Emma Woods, TT Cianfrano, and Megan Turner, too, so that's another positive. But another downfall of these two games were the penalties. Against UConn alone, they had 8 the entire game, but they had 6 in the second period. I mean, again, that brings it right back to Sydney Rossman. If she wasn't doing what she's doing, that would be bad for the team, and other teams would be hopping on that. And then one more thing. Yeah. Kenzie Prater, a freshman, she got her first goal against UNH, well, in her Quinnipiac career, and that's a big thing right there. Emma Woods has been her mentor so far this season, and that's big because she said that she's been vocal with her positivity, and to see both them score, it's pretty cool, the senior and freshman relationship right there.
Woods a big leader on this team, but another big leader you spoke about her, Sydney Rossman. She was gigantic for the team this weekend. They beat UConn 3-0 and UNH 3-0 this weekend. 2 shutouts for her on the young season. What was her impact in the games this weekend?
Well, Andrew, it's pretty simple. As Cass Turner said at Media Day yesterday, she's the team's rock, not just defensively, but their heart and soul. I mean, she's obviously the reigning ECAC goaltender of the year from last season, but she just won ECAC goaltender of the week because she has 3 consecutive shutouts. That's never been done in Quinnipiac's women's ice hockey history. She's 5 away from the program record for shutouts. I mean, just think about that for a second. When you think of all the records out there, you know, goals, assists, points, I think shutouts is probably one of the more difficult ones. I mean, because you have to be, as Cass Turner said, a rock. And Cass Turner said it's certainly within her talent level to get to that record, and I certainly agree. I mean, Rossman is really Michael Gartig of last year for the men's team, but for the women's team this year. She's that good.
So, hold on. Would you put her as the best goaltender in Quinnipiac women's ice hockey history?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, as
most
I just
definitely.
said, most definitely, I would. I mean, you see what she's doing this year. Without her, the team would not be 4-0, I'm telling you. She's there to pick up the team when they're not doing well offensively. That she's really that good. And I have a little bit of a bold prediction. I think because of Rossman, the Bobcats will make it to the Frozen Four this year.
Hello. What a big, bold prediction right there from Phil Akery. Your first 2 games this weekend already making bold predictions. I love it. So moving along, freshman impacts this year. We saw Kenzie Prater, Rothke, and Abby Cleary make big impacts for the team this past weekend. But what did you see firsthand?
Well, I spoke to Cass Turner earlier in the season, and she said that this freshman class in general they're ready for this. They're ready to play at this college level. The transition to the college level hasn't been, rough for them because they have so many good senior mentors like Emma Woods, even junior TT Cianfrano. But, she's put them in a very competitive practice environment, and you can see that it's paying off in the games. And to be honest, I think this is one of the biggest classes, not size-wise, but impact-wise, that Quinnipiac has had in not their history, but in the past few years. The first one that jumps out to me is Allison Rothke. She's a defenseman from Buffalo, Minnesota. She's a fantastic 2-way player. She hasn't showcased yet for the Bobcats her offensive ability, but in high school and throughout junior hockey league, she was a force offensively. But defensively, she's quick and she's very smart with the puck. And she's the type of player that Cass Turner has been trying to recruit to this team. She's very good character and she's fantastic both ways. And Turner said that in their recruitment process in the past few years, they've been going for those type of players. And also, as you said, Kenzie Prater, she scored her first goal in her career at Quinnipiac against UNH this weekend. I think she has a chance to be the next big offensive weapon for this team. I mean, she scored 124 goals in 135 games in her 5 years before Quinnipiac. I mean, those are unreal numbers, Andrew. I mean, I think she's big and she's already gotten a lot of playing time. But also another girl too, Abby Cleary. She's a very smart and quiet player, but she's very good offensively. And her and Rothke are the two players that have gotten the most playing time. I think all three of those girls and the rest of the freshmen too are big building blocks for the future.
I agree, Phil. Sometimes it's easy to overlook the freshmen who don't make an impact on the stat sheet. We've seen in past years with TT Cianfrano a couple of years ago and Melissa Samuskevich last year, players who come in and make a gigantic impact, scoring 30 points every year. But it's easy to overlook players like Cleary and Rothke who do a lot more off the stat sheet. Moving along now, the USCHO poll came out this Monday. Quinnipiac was ranked number 2 for the first time in program history, and we have a lot of discussion in the college hockey community whether the USCHO poll even matters, because it doesn't really have any indication on what teams are going to make the postseason when it is all said and done in the spring. But just, I mean, being ranked number 2, Phil, that's gotta be a good sign for the women's ice hockey team.
Well, it's definitely a good sign. I mean, as you said it, this is the first time it's ever happened to them in program history. But really, it's not surprising. They're 4-0. Rossman is their goalie, and when you have someone like that as your rock, as Turner said, you're gonna get that ranking. And you know, Wisconsin's in front of them right now at number 1. But honestly, if Quinnipiac goes to Mercyhurst this weekend and they win 2 games, why can't they be number 1? But also, it doesn't even affect the team's mindset. You know, TT said yesterday, it's just a number. You know, it's cool at first when you look at it, it's exciting, but it doesn't affect their play, because every team that sees them, that gets Quinnipiac, that team's going to give them their best effort, and they're not going to back down. And honestly, and Emma Woods said, it's an honor, but it brings a huge amount of responsibility, and the number 1 poll isn't going to affect their play. Well, not number 1, but their spot in the polls. And they've been up and down throughout the season. They started at a high note in the polls, but it's not that big of a deal, because they're just going to play their game, because every game is the biggest game of the season for them.
Every game, the biggest game of the season. This upcoming weekend, they have Mercyhurst. They're going to travel over to Western Pennsylvania to take on Mercyhurst. They played them last year, skated to a 3-3 tie, and they won the second game 2-1. What are your takeaways from what's the preview for the matchup this weekend?
Well, Mercyhurst finished last year 19-11-5, which is definitely a respectable record. But I think the biggest thing this year, they've only played 3 games. They played number 10 ranked North Dakota, who's a powerhouse. They lost, but they also tied, and obviously they didn't come out with a win, but that's big against a team like North Dakota. And Cass Turner and even TT, they are recognizing that that's not an easy feat, and they're going to get Mercyhurst's best effort. Their leading scorer from last year, Jenna Dingledine, needs to get started earlier, and she needs to get in her offensive grooves to do well against Quinnipiac this weekend.
Very quick prediction for the weekend. Scores.
I think Quinnipiac goes 2-0 this weekend, and they improve to 6-0.
There you have it.
6-0.
2-0 this weekend for the Quinnipiac women's ice hockey team. When we come back, MJ Baird is going to join me. We're going to talk some Quinnipiac men's ice hockey. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
The freshmen this year have stepped in, really just eliminated that problem, doing the right plays at the right time.
I mean, it certainly seems like an uphill battle for this team, but Tricia Fabi is one of the best coaches at this university.
Bobcats hosting Arizona State. We'll start with this power play.
But she's strong. Good look. I saw her lifting one time. She could squat 3 of me. Like,
Oh, well, 7 of me then.
Good evening and welcome to Sports Pause.
In the end, we're here to win the championship this year.
Jess Fontaine now has that. She's going to take a ripper off the post, but she's going to come back.
And my number 1, hold your applause, Bobcats fans, is Quinnipiac.
All right, Victoria, you know what time it is. It's top 5 plays of the week.
My favorite time.
Welcome back to the Neutral Zone. I'm joined alongside Quinnipiac men's ice hockey beat reporter MJ Baird. MJ, how are you?
Andrew, I'm great. Ready for another exciting winter season full of the Neutral Zone.
MJ, Quinnipiac took on Northeastern this weekend in a 2-game series. Kyle Levasseur and Sierra Goodwill were at the game and broke it down post-game.
I don't think the penalty box doors stopped swinging tonight, Kyle, at High Point Solutions Arena in Game 2 of Quinnipiac versus Northeastern Series. I'm Sierra Goodwill, joined alongside Kyle Levasseur. Last night in Game 1, Quinnipiac and Northeastern tied 2-2 in overtime, but tonight, Quinnipiac's defense prevailed and brought them to a 5-2 win. Kyle, the shot blocking tonight, the penalty kill, all around the back line for Quinnipiac. It's extremely impressive. 24 block shots and killed numerous amounts of penalties. What did you see from that?
Well, Sarah, it's 2 top 15 teams
Quinnipiac being number 2, Northeastern number 15. Rand Pecknold thinks that Northeastern should even be a top 10 team in the country. So obviously, taking advantage on the penalties has to be key. Like you said, 48 minutes on the penalty. Northeastern, 1 for 10 with 1 power play goal. They only had 12 shots. Quinnipiac's ability to stop them while on the penalty kill was the story of this game. Quinnipiac also had 2 power play goals, a big difference. Tim Clifton, I talked to him after the game, assistant captain this year. He was just so proud in his team's ability to go out there and block shots. He said that anyone on that bench will go out there on the ice and take one right in the chest for the team. 24 block shots. I mean, that's the difference in the game. 24 block shots versus Northeastern's 9. Crazy.
All right, MJ, we heard Sierra and Kyle's takeaways, but what else did you take away from that series against Northeastern?
Right, so first, starting on Friday night, a 2-2 game, obviously. Quinnipiac gives up 2 goals in the third period after they held a 2-0 lead going into the last frame. And this is something interesting I noted because last year, a lot of times we saw this men's hockey team, they were the ones that were scoring late in games, late in the third period to tie or to win games. Specifically last year, you remember the Dartmouth game, Andrew. Quinnipiac comes roaring back in that one. But so they're on the receiving end of things this year so far through what we've seen. But I don't see it as too big of a concern. You know, like you said, first game of the year, Northeastern, the defending Hockey East champions, very good team. So the fact that this is a tie for the Bobcats, in my opinion, is good. Because if they happen to lose on a last-minute goal to lose the game, that could definitely be a confidence, destroyer. Not necessarily to carry throughout the season, but just for this opening weekend, sorry. And then on Saturday, a 5-2 win. Tim Clifton had 2 goals. One was an open netter. But, penalties and special teams were the story of this game. 24 block shots for the Bobcats on the penalty kill. That is just a terrific number. If you can block 24 shots, you're going to get rewarded, and they did. Chase Prisky on the penalty kill tips a pass, goes the other way for a breakaway goal, and that's the kind of stuff you're going to get rewarded for when you do lay out and block pucks.
Yeah, certainly, MJ. And we saw in that second game a big freshman impact. Carlos Chuksta and Brogan Rafferty played very well on the defensive end for the Quinnipiac. But what else did you see from their play over the weekend?
It was really interesting. On Saturday night, I noticed, I was up in the press box, Rand Pecknold did a lot of shuffling with the defensive lines. So I asked him after the game, why'd you make these moves? Why were you comfortable making these moves? And he said on Friday night, from Chuksta and from Rafferty, he saw a lot of good things he liked. But they didn't get as much ice time as he would have liked. So Saturday night, when they had the lead going into the third period, or into the second rather, he felt comfortable being able to shake things up. Put Connor Clifton maybe with Chuksta or with Rafferty and McKernan here and there. And he just felt able to spread out the defensive core, play with people they might not be used to playing with, and that's good if you can have defensemen that are so well-rounded enough they have chemistry with anyone.
Yeah, and you saw it last year as well, like you alluded to. Pecknold loves to switch around his defensive pairings throughout the game. I mean, we see it this year. Luke Shiplow is a forward now. We could totally see him be playing defense later on in the year. We see him on the power play playing on the blue line. Players with offensive skill, he likes to move them around with also that defensive aspect to their game. Speaking of defense, Chris Truel, the new goaltender for the Bobcats, taking over from Michael Gartig, looked pretty good, right?
I thought he looked very good, Andrew. We talked to Rand Pecknold after the exhibition game against McGill 2 weeks ago now. Truel played the third period in that game, and after the game, Pecknold said he's not going to tell you who the goalie is, and he wouldn't do it until Friday before the opening weekend, this past weekend. It ends up being Truel, 28 saves on Friday, 32 on Sunday. He did give up 4 goals, but that's okay when the Bobcats put up 7 goals in 2 games. You're still going to get the wins, and obviously the tie on Friday. But I am a little, not concerned, but something I want to mentally note. Over the course of a long season, remember, he didn't play last year. He's a transfer, had to sit out with the NCAA transfer rules. How will he fare as the season progresses, as his workload really does increase?
Certainly, MJ. Quinnipiac dropped to number 3 in the poll this weekend, but it really wasn't, it's nothing to really worry about, in my opinion. Let's move on to the UMaine game this upcoming weekend, UMaine preview. Pretty interesting game last year. They tied them late, 3-3. Quinnipiac was down late in the third period in that one. Maine started out hot this weekend. What's your preview for the game?
Yeah, Andrew, that's really interesting to note. Remember, last year, it was January 19th, I have it right here, that Quinnipiac went up to Orono, Maine to play UMaine. Remember, this Quinnipiac team is in the midst of a 34-35 game streak where they didn't lose a game. Yes, they had ties here and there, but Boston University at the beginning of the last year was the only loss they had for a long time, a considerable amount of time throughout that whole season. So I think it's going to be interesting. a 2-game weekend up in Maine. That's going to be really tough. Maine coming off a sweep of RPI. Mitchell Fossier had a hat trick in their first game against RPI. He's going to be a big impact. Nolan Vesey, the brother of Jimmy, who just left Harvard, the Hobie Baker winner. And then Patrick Holloway, too. He's actually has a personal connection. He's from a town near me. He played in the USHL for the Sioux City Musketeers. So he's a big impact, too, on the defensive end for UMaine. They'll be really good at home. Watch out if you're the Bobcats.
Lots of good stuff, MJ. Thank you. That'll do it for this episode of The Neutral Zone. For more information, please visit our website at q30television.com and follow us on social media at Q30 Sports. For MJ Baird, Phil Akery, I'm Andrew Badillo. Have a good one.